Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We are from Group 1 and our members are Ayu Lestari, Ika Oktaviani, and Nuha Nabilah. In this presentation, we will explain about objections and appeals. For the first material will be explained by Ayu Lestari. For Ayu Lestari, times is yours.
An objection is an effort that a taxpayer can take if he is not satisfied with a tax assessment imposed on him. Taxpayer may file an objection to the Director General of Taxes to the Tax Service Office where the relevant taxpayer is registered. Next, Nuha. Taxpayer can only file an objection to the content of the tax assessment letter, which includes the amount of loss, the amount of tax, and the content of the withholding or collecting of taxes. Those who can file an objection are the first for corporate taxpayer by the management, the second for individual taxpayer by the taxpayer concerned, and the last parties withheld or collected by third parties. Next, Nuha. And also, if the taxpayer is still not satisfied with the decision letter of objection to the objection he submitted, then the taxpayer can still file an appeal to the tax court. Appeal decision is a decision from a tax court on a appeal against a decision on objection filed by a taxpayer. Those who can appeal to the tax court are the first for corporate taxpayer by the management, and for individual taxpayer, it is the person concerned or hers. An appeal may also file a statement of revocation to the tax court. A revoked appeal will be removed from the dispute placed by the first. The taxpayer must submit a statement of revocation appeal to the chairman of the session before the trial begins and took this decision of the panel or judge by examining the statement of revocation submitted in the trial with the approval of the appellant. An appeal that has been revoked through a stipulation or decision cannot be resubmitted. Next, Nuha. And objection and appeal mechanism. So taxpayer can file an objection to tax underpayment assessment, additional tax underpayment assessment, tax overpayment assessment, nil tax assessment, and withholding or collecting by trial by third parties within a period of to the Directorate General of Taxes. And then the Directorate General of Taxes will give its decision a maximum of 12 months after receiving the letter of truth from the taxpayer. And if the taxpayer is not satisfied with the decision of the Directorate General of Taxes, then the taxpayer can file an appeal within 3 months of receiving the decision from the Directorate General of Taxes. And filing an appeal is reported to the tax court. Next slide will be read from my friend.
Taxpayer can submit objections if the taxpayer believes that the amount of loss, the amount of tax, and tax deductions or collection is not as it should be. Next slide, Nuha. Objects of objections. Taxpayer can submit objection to first, tax underpayment assessment letter. Second, additional tax underpayment assessment letter. Third, tax overpayment assessment letter. Fourth, nil tax assessment letter. And withholding or collecting by third parties based on the provision of tax legislation. The objection submitted is to the material or contents of the tax assessment, that is, the amount of loss based on the provisions of the taxation law, the amount of the tax, withholding, or collecting taxes. Next, submission, procedures, and resolution of an objection. First is address and the procedure for submitting an objection letter. Submitted in writing to the Directorate General of Taxation, and one objection must be filed against one tax type and one tax year. Second, fill in the objection letter. First is written in Indonesian, express the amount of tax owed or the amount of tax withheld or collected or the amount of loss according to the calculation of the taxpayer. And lastly is equipped with clear reasons. Next. Third, the time period for filling an objection letter. Submitted within a period of 3 months from the date of the letter, the date of deduction or collection, except if the taxpayer can show that the period cannot be fulfilled due to circumstances outside his control. Or fourth, major. Fourth, a receipt of objection letter by the Directorate General of Taxation. Every objection letter submitted by the taxpayer must have proof of acceptance, because the date of receipt stated in the proof of receipt of the objection letter is the basis for calculating the deadline for objection resolution submitted by the taxpayer with the note that the letter has fulfilled the requirements as an objection letter, proof of receipt of objection letter. If it delivered directly by taxpayer, is a receipt given by the Directorate General of Taxes appointed for it. And if sent by post, is a sign of sending an objection letter by registered mail. If the objection doesn't qualify as a considered objection, the objection will not be considered. If the taxpayer letter doesn't qualify as an objection letter and the taxpayer corrects it, so the deadline for objection resolution is calculated from the receipt of the corrected objection letter. Next, rights and obligation of taxpayer and fiscus at the time of lodge an objection letter. Directorate General of Taxation is obligated to provide a written statement of matters which are the basis for taxation, calculation of loss, deduction, or tax collection as the taxpayer requested for purpose of filing an objection. Before objection decision letter published, taxpayer can provide additional reasons or written explanations. And decision on the objections. First is period of issuance of decisions. The Directorate General of Taxation, within maximum period of 12 months from the date of objection letter is received, must give a decision on the objection submitted. If the 12 months period has passed and the Directorate General of Taxation doesn't give a decision, so the objection submitted is considered accepted. Second, this decision of objections. Understanding of objection decision letter is a decision on objection to tax assessment letter or against withholding or collection by a third party submitted by the taxpayer. Fill in the objection decision letter or receive in whole or in a part, refuse or increase the amount of tax payable. Next. interest reward for objection letter received in whole or in part. If the objection is accepted in part or in whole, then the taxpayer will be given an interest fee of 2% a month at the last 24 months for the taxpayer, the tax overpayment in the underpayment tax assessment letter and or the additional underpayment tax assessment letter if is calculated from the date of payment, which result in overpayment of taxes until the objection decision is issued. Payment of more administrative sanctions in the form of fines as referred to in Article 14, paragraph 4, and or interest as referred to the Article 19, paragraph 1, based on decision on reduction or elimination of administrative sanctions as a result of the objection decision which receive part or all of the taxpayer's application. And last, follow up of the contents of the decision on objection that are unacceptable or not in accordance with the wishes of the taxpayer. If the taxpayer cannot accept or is not satisfied with the decisions issued by the Directorate General of Taxation, the taxpayer can submit an appeal to the tax courts. For the next material will be explained by Nuha Nabilah. For Nuha Nabilah, time is yours.
Okay. If taxpayer is not satisfied with the decision on the objection determined by the Director General of Taxes on the objection letter submitted by the taxpayer can appeal. Submission procedures of an appeal. The first, address of appeal. Address of appeal submit in writing to the tax court. The second, fill in the letter of appeal, written in Indonesian, citing clear reason. Attached is a copy of the objection letter. The third period of submission of appeals. Submit within 3 months from the decision on objection received. The fourth, the right and obligation of the taxpayer and the fiscus during the appeal period. Appeals do not delay the obligation to pay taxes, or we call imperative understanding, and the implementation of tax collection no longer valid but delayed until 1 month after the issuance of the appeal decision. Fifth, decision of appeal. Definition: decision of appeal is the decision of a tax court body on an appeal against a decision of objection filed by a taxpayer. And the last, interest benefits for appeals received in whole or in part. If the appeal is accepted in part or in full, then the taxpayer will be given an interest fee of 2% a month at the last 24 months. If for the tax overpayment in the tax underpayment assessment letter and or the tax underpayment assessment letter is calculated from the date of payment which result in overpayment of taxes until the appeal decision is issued. B. Payment of more administrative sanction in the form of fines as referred to in Article 14, paragraph 4, and or interest as referred to in Article 19, paragraph 1, based on degree of reduction or elimination of administrative sanction as a result of the issuance of an appeal decision which received part or all of the taxpayer's application. That's from me, Ika.
That's That's all from us. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.